This is a 2008 KTM 450 XCF. Bike runs great, but the clutch won't quite fully disengage. There can be a couple of reasons for that, the most common of which is worn clutch plates. Sometimes we think that worn clutch plates will only make the clutch to where it won't fully engage, but it can also make it not fully disengage. So today I'm going to put new clutch plates into the bike. I have those procured already. I went with the Tusk brand from Rocky Mountain ATV. I have those in oil just to make sure that they're well lubricated going in. I'm using some Castrol 10W50 synthetic, which is what KTM recommends. So that's sitting here ready to go. We'll tear the side off the clutch cover and put these in. Okay, all of our bolts are out. I have drained the oil. And depending on the level of the oil in your engine, you may need to do the same. It's pretty close. Looking at the sight glass, you can probably see where the oil might run. I'm due for a change here anyway, so I went ahead and drained the oil, which will eliminate any possibility of having oil come out down here at the bottom edge of the clutch cover. Now the clutch plates are held in by the outer hub here, the inner hub within. These 6 bolts with springs on them keep the whole thing compacted together. It's pressing the clutch that separates the inner and the outer hub, allowing room for the plates to slip. In fact, if I reach up here and pull that clutch, you can see just barely how that outer hub gets pushed out, disengaging the clutch. So our spring bolts out to hold the thing together, bolts sitting along the side here. I can now pull this top plate off. You have to kind of get the brake pedal out of the way. You might choose to take that off to simplify things. Set that to the side. This is the mechanism behind the clutch lever. On the KTM it's hydraulic. So this push rod goes through to the other side where there's a hydraulic actuator, pushes this, which pushes the face away from the plates, allowing them to slip. We'll set that right here. That should give us enough room to pull these plates off. We'll pull them off all in one big fell swoop. The last couple, a little difficult to get my fat meat hooks in there, so I'm going to use a couple of little screwdrivers to help with the reach. Pull them out from there. That is all of that, leaving the inner hub. That bolt should, or that nut should be tight on the shaft. This should spin freely. Everything should be clean in there. You can also look a little bit here at the tines on the basket. If there's excessive wear or notching on here, that can create some problems with clutch disengagement as well, because the clutch plates aren't allowed to slide on the finger. Same thing on the inner hub. This one looks quite good. Okay, I have my container full of the new plates that have been soaking. What I'm going to do is actually flip them so that I can take the bottom one each time, which means that it's got a fairly fresh coating on it. You'll notice that the friction plate has a slightly different shape on every other little finger. I don't think there's any major significance to that, but there is a tendency to want to line those up within the clutch, which is fine. Metal plates go between friction plates, alternating every other one. In this case, the bike has 9 friction plates and 8 metal plates. That's a little more than I think what I've seen in the Japanese bikes. But no matter, we simply want them to go on there, alternating every other one, making sure that the friction plates and the metal plates are well lubricated going in. A little bit the same way that you would pre-lubricate a freshly assembled engine. Make sure that it's got plenty of oil, not running dry the first time it goes. This, in this case, starting to use a fresh clutch that wasn't properly lubricated would do a couple of things. One, it would tend to be sticky out of the gate. The bigger problem, though, is that it could cause some damage. Friction plates that aren't properly lubricated can burn, causing premature wear. You might end up right back where you started, or even worse. You can also get some plates that will stick together. If they never do get properly lubricated between them, then those plates won't separate well, and you'll have a further problem with clutch disengagement over time. These friction plates, by the way, are not directional. You can go on facing either direction. But we are, mostly just for OCD purposes, lining up the common notch shapes within the outer clutch basket. Here's our last friction plate out on the very end, and we're back together ready for that top plate. Okay, we want to put a push rod back in. Clutch will not work too well without that in there. Again, that pushes from the other side, presses against those springs, compressing the springs, allowing the plates within the clutch to slip on each other. Oh, brake. I'm nervous about that. Okay. With that in place, we can start these bolts. These bolts are a little bit painful just because of the spring-loaded nature. Start by getting them threaded in, just a few threads. When we go to tighten them down, we'll want to be just a little bit careful, since the springs can cause a little bit of a strange torque on that outer faceplate there of the clutch. So what we're going to do is tighten them somewhat uniformly, a little bit the way we would tighten, I don't know, cylinder head or even the lugs on a car tire wheel. Not nearly as critical as a cylinder head. We're not terribly concerned about warping the faceplate of the clutch. I just want to make sure everything goes on straight and aligned. Okay, those bolts are tightened up. We're now doing just a little bit of wiping to make sure that the mating surfaces are clean. Last thing we want is to have an oil leak develop out of this whole thing, off this clutch cover. There's our bolts, just the same way it came off. Push that out of the way. Put the clutch cover in place and replace the bolts. And there we all back together, almost ready to ride. If you drain the oil, you'll need to put oil back in it, as will I. If you didn't drain the oil, you should be all set. You should not have any need to bleed the clutch. That's a separate exercise, and if you had that problem before the repair, then you'll certainly have that same problem after. but replacing the clutch plates in itself doesn't create a air bubble or need to bleed on a hydraulic brake or hydraulic clutch system. So you should be good to go there. I'm going to fill this up with oil, and then I'm ready to go ride. See you next time.